Hey everybody, thank you for joining episode 27 of The Green Life. Today's episode is fantastic. I have a guest who is a ball of energy, an amazing source of information, and a wonderful teacher explaining things in a way that is beautiful. His name is Dr. Michael Klaper. Dr. Klaper believes that proper nutrition through a whole food, plant-based diet and a balanced lifestyle are essential for health, and in many cases can make the difference between healing an illness and just treating its symptoms. He is really the father of lifestyle medicine. So Dr. Klaper is not just an amazing clinician, internationally recognized teacher, sought after speaker on diet and health. He also spent his time educating the next generation of doctors. Yes, because he knows that sadly medical school doesn't offer a lot of knowledge and information on nutrition, especially plant-based nutrition, and that's a way for doctors to really heal their patients and feel good about the medicine that they're practicing. Dr. Michael Klaper has been practicing medicine since 1972, and he really changed the direction of his career in medicine when he became vegan in 1981. So he's been vegan for about 41 years, and he really embodies this approach of lifestyle and diet to getting healthier. He's 75 now and he's super healthy and he looks fantastic and his energy is amazing. So I cannot wait to dive into this episode talking about lifestyle medicine. Welcome, Dr. Klaper. Dr. Klaper, thank you so much for being on The Green Life today. What an honor to have you here. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for helping to get this important word out.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I really love your work. And I think this is really important information. So today we're going to talk about lifestyle medicine, which I think you're a champion on. And there are so many angles to go around. And before we start, I know most people know you, but just in case someone is new to plant-based living and they are just getting to know you, should we give them a little background about your journey when you became plant-based and your work?
Sure. Well, I'm a classically trained Western physician. I graduated from the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago back in the early 70s. For the first 10 years of my medical career, I practiced blood and guts medicine in emergency rooms, operating rooms, urgent care clinics. But in 1981, while I was training to be an anesthesiologist, I had some epiphanies in the operating room as I was on the cardiovascular anesthesia service, dealing with people's hearts and blood vessels. And every day I'm putting people to sleep and watch surgeons open up their chests and open up the arteries in their heart and pull this yellow guck out of their arteries that was causing the heart attacks and strokes. And my father died of that. I know I have those genes, and I knew I was going to be laying on that operating table with that striker saw going up my chest. I didn't want that. So I changed my diet to a plant-based diet. There were already medical studies in the literature showing that you can melt this stuff away with a plant-based diet. My body loved it. Within 12 weeks, a 10-kilo spare tire of fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol went to normal. I felt great waking up in a nice lean body every day. And at that point, I knew I didn't want to be an anesthesiologist and spend my career putting people to sleep. I'd rather go back to general practice and help them wake up. And so I did. That was 1981. I've been a plant-based physician ever since. My patients experience the same wonderful changes I did. They get leaner, their high blood pressure goes down, their cholesterols go down, and I get to get them off their medications. I learned the whole art of de-prescribing, where you get to back people down off these medicines instead of always raising them up. And so clearly the majority of diseases that that my colleagues spend their professional lives treating, the obesity, the high blood pressure, the diabetes, the clogged arteries, they're 99% from what people are eating and how they're living their lives, not enough sleep, too much stress, etc. And the beauty of lifestyle medicine is that it addresses all the underlying causes of these diseases. And I'm the happiest doctor I know. My patients get healthy right before my eyes. It's the most exciting transformation in medicine. And the last part of the puzzle is that in these last several years of my career, I realized somebody needs to tell the medical students this. Why didn't somebody tell me this in medical school, that these are reversible diseases? I was told the best you could do is manage their high blood pressure, manage their diabetes, and they're all getting more obese and more sick and having their strokes. Why didn't somebody tell me I would like to reverse your diabetes, like to reverse your high blood pressure? Well, lifestyle medicine can do exactly that. And so I've been working with the medical students at medical schools across North America, Australia, New Zealand. I was in Poland, Lithuania, delivering this message that a plant-based diet is square one. Sleep and exercise are all important, but first and foremost is the food you are sending through your bloodstream every few hours. If it's full of meat and cheese and oil and sugars, you can't be healthy doing that. You need a whole food plant-based diet like we were designed to run on. And if you do that for your patients, you're going to see these diseases go away. And that's an exciting message that we're trying to deliver to medical students through our Moving Medicine Forward initiative. If people like to learn more about it, they can go to my website, drklaper.com, and click on Moving Medicine Forward, and you'll see what we're doing. So my focus these days is with my medical patients, of course, to help them get healthier, but also to educate the medical students and the practicing physicians who are getting so disillusioned. They're all leaving medicine. They're all getting fatter and sicker. That's right, doctor. If you don't talk to them about what they're eating and their lifestyle, that's what you're going to see. But it doesn't have to be like that. A new era of medicine is dawning, and we're helping to make that dawning happen as soon as possible. And podcasts like this play a great role in just in opening people's minds. Oh, gee, I didn't know that. So I'm very happy to have this opportunity to speak with you.
Oh, thank you. And you really hit the nail on its head. I mean, it's important to educate our physicians, because I think you had a rhetorical question there. Why isn't it taught at medical school? We know that sadly, pharmaceutical companies are very, very powerful, and they sponsor a lot of the programs that have to do with medicine. So it's not in their best interest to actually give the message that you can heal without their drugs. But on the same token, there are doctors that are really getting discouraged, as you say, because they're like, I want to get people better. I did not get into medicine to see people fail, and they don't have the tools. So your work is absolutely necessary and fantastic, and I'm really happy that this is happening. I mean, you've been teaching it in many universities, North America, Europe, Australia, but how is the receipt of this new program being accepted? Because I don't know if all the universities are open to it, or did you get a little bit pushback?
Oh, that's a very insightful question. And as you correctly surmised, there's a tremendous establishment in place to keep medicine just like it is, just drugs and surgery. That's all we have to offer patients. And the administrations, they don't want to hear what I'm preaching here. But so we just go around them. It's the medical students who invite me in. In every medical school class now, there's 20, 30, 40 students who've seen movies like Forks Over Knives and What the Health and Cowspiracy. The light is already on in these young people's heads, and they're the ones who invite me in. And kind of a unforeseen gift from the COVID virus, it made us go online. And now I'm reaching more medical students than ever. And so medical schools around the world actually are, I just spoke in Innsbruck, Austria last week to medical students. So the word is getting out, and we're trying to, as you say, reach the students before pharmacosclerosis sets into their brains, and there's always some professors in the back of the room shaking their head, oh, this is too radical, and my patients will never do this. But the students know, many of them are already vegan, many of them have relatives who've transformed their diet, they've seen this happening. So we're going right to the students, and the old guard that resists it, time is on our side here. They exit stage right on the conveyor belt there, and these new young doctors, they become the professors in a few years, and they're the ones we're trying to awaken. So the reception from the students has been really good. And at every medical school, there's usually a surgeon or an internist or cardiologist who's already plant-based. and they cheer us on. And so it's
Amazing.
starting to happen from the bottom up. We're making progress.
Yeah, like with everything, grassroots is the way to go.
Indeed. And with this beautiful medium, you can reach a lot of people and
Yeah.
educate them at once. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm really happy. The podcast is very new, but it's growing steadily. And so that's good news. And I'm trying to really target people that don't know about it because, of course, we don't want to preach to the choir. So we want to make sure that new people have this light bulb. I mean, I just got a question from one of my clients that asked me about her husband having high cholesterol. And I said, well, I cannot give you the answer you like, but the only way you're going to lower that cholesterol is by going on a wholesome plant-based low-fat diet. So if you want to talk about it, I'm happy. But if you want me to give you some herbs that will lower it, nothing can offset your diet because that's the thing you do the most every day. So, and
Indeed, the best
yeah,
way to lower your cholesterol is stop eating it. Stop
yeah.
eating anybody else's cholesterol.
Yeah. So can we actually tap into cholesterol? Because I think people are confused about it because a lot of people don't even know that we actually make it. So they really don't understand how what are we going to do with our cholesterol? It's so important. Of course, then we had also the the egg companies and dairy companies that were like, we need cholesterol for your sex hormones. Yes, but we make it. So can you just explain how that works and also so people are clear about the difference between the one we make and our herbs and the one that we actually ingest.
Indeed, such an important question. As you're saying, cholesterol is not an evil molecule, and our liver is making it right now as we speak. And there's a good reason for that. Our adrenal glands use cholesterol to turn into cortisol and aldosterone and vital hormones that we need to survive. Your liver uses cholesterol to turn into bile so we can absorb our fats. You have ovaries and they use cholesterol to make estrogens. Guys, testicles, they use cholesterol to make testosterone. It's not an evil molecule to be obliterated and avoided. But as you say, our liver makes all that we need. We have to trust our liver. The problem is, and I'm sorry for the little chemistry here, but it's oxidized cholesterol. What does that mean? To oxidize cholesterol is to rip electrons off of it, and that turns it into cholesterol peroxides, and those are the particles that invade the artery walls that sets off the plaque formation that leads to heart attacks and strokes. Well, what's oxidized cholesterol? What oxidized cholesterol? Cooking the meat, putting that chicken breast under the broiler, broiling the steak, grilling the hot dog and the hamburger, that oxidizes the cholesterol. And so it's the oxidized animal cholesterol that people are eating that goes into their artery walls and sets off the plaque formation. I have a short video on this on my website, drklaper.com. Click Beyond Cholesterol and watch that video. And I explain the difference between what your own liver is making versus cow cholesterol and chicken cholesterol and oxidized pig cholesterol in your bloodstream. So that's why the folks who eat only plant-based don't damage their arteries. The gorillas out in the wild are eating a high carbohydrate diet all day, leaves and fruit, and their arteries are clean. They don't develop diabetes. They don't develop clogged arteries. And we have basically the same digestive system and circulatory system that they have. So we should take a clue from that. It's when we start killing and eating and cooking animals that we create all the problems inside our own systems there. But a whole food plant-based diet not only will protect our arteries, it'll actually melt away the plaque on the inside of the artery walls. It can actually reverse this fatal disease. So I'm glad that you made the point that cholesterol is not the enemy. It's the oxidized cholesterol, mostly from the animals that people are eating. Now, if a person is eating a lot of fried foods, a lot of sugars, a lot of processed foods, they can start oxidizing their own cholesterol that their liver is making. And so there's no reason to say, well, if it's vegan, it's healthy. Not necessarily. If it's cooked and as processed and fried and full of chemicals, you'll wind up oxidizing your own cholesterol there and open the door to the same disease. So whole food, plant-based, eat foods like you could recognize them growing in the garden. Oh, there's a tomato, there's a cucumber, that's what you want to eat. Okay, whole grains and nuts and seeds and legumes, etc. So hopefully people can see that cholesterol is not the enemy, it's the oxidized cholesterol that we get from cooking meat.
Yeah, you organically actually segued into my next question, because I was going to ask you your opinion on why certain vegans still are overweight and also have high cholesterol and another array of diseases. They can have diabetes and so on. I mean, I'm a big spokesperson for making yourself healthy or sick. One of the things I'm ashamed to say that before I went plant-based in 2013, I studied nutrition classically, so I was taught that we needed these proteins from our meat and that chicken is the better meat. So, I was so resistant to change, and I understand. So I understand the kind of brainwashing around a certain topic, because that's the message we get from TV, from our parents, and from the medical system and so on. But so when I snapped out of it by listening to Dr. Barnard when I was studying to become a coach, actually, I thought, well, my sugar is too high. My doctor never said pre-diabetic, but actually I was pre-diabetic. Was in that range, but there's like, it's too high, you have to lower it without guidance. So when I heard Dr. Bernard speak about the fat that is in the muscle cells and so creating insulin resistance, it made sense. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And I really got better. And even my cholesterol went down to a optimal range. And I really thrived for many years until 2016, when we moved from London to Portugal, and it was a very stressful, well, it wasn't then, but we started the process. We had a lot of stuff going on in London, and I just went through a lot of emotional stress. And by the time we got here, when we basically recuperated a farmhouse that we transformed where we live now, and we grow our food, and we went back to grassroots. But to do that, it was really hardcore, and I was the one managing the project because I sort of speak a little bit of Latin languages. So I managed to communicate with the builders. My husband is American, is like, I cannot do this. So it was really stressful, and a lot of stuff came up. And I think also as I'm aging, not aging and like getting old, but as I'm maturing and I turned 40, like a lot of stuff came up for me. And I just made myself sick on a vegan diet, but I stopped eating solely for whole food. So I was eating a lot of cheeses that were processed and so high fat food, and the fat and the sugar combination. I think for me that was just, and so I actually, yeah, you are agreeing. So I love you to talk about that combo as to why, although something is vegan, is not necessarily better for you. It could be actually worse than having animals in your diet if you're eating, in brackets, clean. So because a lot of vegans just eat all this processed food just because there is a bee on it. And I know I got myself sick, and I gave myself type 2 diabetes, which I'm reversing now. So I know that I can make myself healthy, but I know I can make myself very sick. That was a revelation.
Yes, and your nutritional knowledge is very impressive, and you hit upon some very important points. You mentioned the fat-sugar combination. That's really a key, because I've got quite a number of vegans who are overweight. And one of the main drivers of that, hey, I'm supposed to be vegans are skinny. Why am I still carrying all this weight? Well, as you mentioned, our body can burn two kinds of fuels: sugars, which is our primary fuel, glucose, but we can also burn fats as an emergency fuel. If there are no sugars around, and if we're in famine time, we can burn fat stored on our body. And so sugar is the cleaner burning fuel. It's easier to blow apart a glucose ring and harvest the energy than metabolize these long chain fats that requires a lot of enzyme steps. So given the choice, if you eat sugars and fats at the same time, that fat-sugar combo, the body says, sugars, fats, oh, let's burn that sugar right now. We'll store that fat for later. And so it's that fat-sugar combination that makes the fat stick to you. If you're just eating rice and potatoes and green vegetables, you're going to wind up lean. Even if you eat more calories than you burn, that your muscles use during the day. In the evening, your blood temperature, your body temperature go up 1/4 of a degree. You'll stick your foot out from under the covers, and you'll radiate that extra calories off to space there. It doesn't turn into fat. But if you eat the sugars and the fats at the same time, as I said, the oxidative priority is to burn the sugar first and store the fats. So think about how many pitfalls there are in the vegan diet. You're pouring oil on your pasta, you are creating that fat sugar combination. You'll burn the sugar in the pasta and you'll store the oil, the fat and the oil for later. Vegan ice cream is fat and sugar. All ice cream is fat and sugar. Certainly dairy ice cream is, but even the vegan ice creams, they're sugar from the agave or whatever it is, and the fat is the cashew oil or whatever it is. But again, there's that fat sugar combination. A baked potato with vegan margarine on it, you're recreating that fat sugar combination. And so that's the saboteur that lurks if people are just eating all this vegan junk food. And as you mentioned, the fat starts getting stored in the muscle cells and interfering with insulin action, and you can induce type 2 diabetes on yourself there. Fortunately, this is all reversible. You can eat fat. Fats are not the enemy. We need some fat every day. But one, get it out of whole foods, get it out of walnuts and nuts and flax seeds and whole olives, but not out of glass bottle. Don't just pour liquid fat on your food there. But if you're going to be eating fatty foods, you want to put eat walnuts or tahini. Don't eat it with a starchy vegetable. Put it on your salad in the evening. Put it on your steamed vegetables. But have your potatoes and your pasta at noontime. Let your body metabolize those carbohydrates, and have your fats in the evening. The tahini dressing on your greens there. But again, this is only for your listeners who need to lose weight. If you're already a healthy weight, don't drive yourself crazy over this. Oh, fat, sugar, fat. We can handle, if you're a normal weight, you can handle a little bit of fat and sugar, as far as you want to put some nuts on your fatty dressing on a sweet potato, say. But if you're trying to lose weight, be aware of that fat sugar combination and avoid it. Allow about 4 hours. It takes about 4 hours to burn a glucose load off. So as I said, have your potatoes or your pasta at noon, let the afternoon go by, have your tahini dressing and your fatty desserts or whatever later in the evening.
Oh, I love that this is so clear, and I think it's something that it really doesn't get explained much. I have not heard many people talk about this relationship. So thank you for that. And it takes me into another question. This understanding, which is not talked about, is it the foundation as to why a lot of people are anti-carbs and they like, you cannot eat carbs, and then they go on these keto diets or paleo diets, which, short term might even work if they are eating a really bad Western junk food diet and then they clean it up. But what are the repercussions of going on such a diet for a long period of time?
That's the key point. Ketosis, which is the state of having these molecules called ketones in your blood from burning fat. When you shift your body to basically living off the stored fat in your body or the fats that you're eating, these ketones show up in the bloodstream. And for a few days, they do good things. They suppress appetite, people lose weight, that can lower blood pressure down. And so people get seduced by these early changes, and the keto folks and the paleo folks say, see, they're losing weight, their blood pressure's going down, a healthy diet, we all ought to be eating keto, just eat flesh and occasional vegetables there, a little grass growing out of the mouth of the cave there, like the caveman did, but basically live on mammoth meat, Well, I tell my colleagues, do not be seduced by these early changes. Yes, it's largely due to the weight loss. You'll see reduction in blood pressure, etc. But if you think that packing your intestines full of decaying animal flesh 2-3 times a day is healthy, think again. This is a recipe for colon cancer. There's a recipe, you're going to spawn microbes in the gut that invade the gut wall and set off colitis, set off Crohn's disease. The trimethylamine oxide that's going to be generated drives cholesterol to the artery walls, especially in the brain. This is a recipe for dementia, for heart attacks, for strokes. This is a diet of death. especially we're here in America, if a little is good, more must be better, and if a couple of days of ketosis is better, then I'll stay in ketosis a month. I'll stay in there 2 months. Well, ketosis is a state of acidosis. These ketones are acidic, and to keep yourself in a state of low-grade acidosis week after week after week, it's hard on the kidneys, it's hard on the bones, it's hard on the liver. It's an emergency state. That I'm sure our ancient foraging ancestors, there were many times when 4 or 5 days would go by before they found the next berry bush with fruit on it, or they found, some roots that they could dig up. And the body is used to slipping into ketosis for a few days, and that's a good thing. And I think it's healthy for all of us, every couple of months, do a 5-day water fast or whatever. I think it cleans you out. It's a good thing to be in, to put your toe in the ketosis pool, for a short period of time, but don't linger there. This is not a state of health, and people shouldn't be seduced by these early changes. They love, I can eat all the steak I want. We are not mountain lions, we're not cougars, and this is a recipe for disease if you continue to do that. It's a fad that I hope exits soon off our awareness stage there.
Well, they repackage it all the time to make it more appealing. And the truth is also, if we have to be rational, even if our ancestors used to eat meat and forage for the rest, they definitely didn't eat meat every day because they had to hunt for it. They did not go to the butcher. So that's the hard work.
Absolutely. Most hunts were unsuccessful. Most times the guys came back empty-handed. If they did drag a carcass into a camp there was no refrigeration. It rotted within days, became toxic. To think that, that every caveman had a mastodon in the freezer and spent all day eating mammoth meat is a mirage, a myth. It's nonsense. And it turns out most of the calories brought into the Paleolithic camps were gathered by the women who spent all day foraging for the starchy roots and tubers and gathering nuts, berries, edible grasses. That's what our small mouths and our flat grinding molar teeth and our rotary jaw joints are really meant to digest. We are starchivores. And when you look at the fossilized fecal droppings of the caveman, they were massive. These people were eating huge amounts of fiber all day there. This idea that, if you're a caveman, you eat meat all day is nonsense, and it's dangerous. And we were paying the price, not only in our personal health, but the planet is paying the price for large-scale industrial agriculture. The days of meat eating are over. No matter what the caveman ate, it doesn't matter anymore. We've used fishing up, we've used flesh eating up. It's time to turn the page. If we want to stay alive on this planet, our individuals and our species have to adopt a whole food plant-based diet, or else we're just not going to survive.
Yeah, I also add to the fact that I think we need to all start in our capacity as much as we can, whether it's in community gardens or in our own gardens, to grow our food, because the food supply is also under attack by the people that have heavy interest, even in the vegan movement, by creating these alternatives to meat that are fake meats but are full of stuff that you should not be eating. So it's a very interesting paradox, because they basically always find a way to kind of go in and try to take people away from the actual solution. Like you can become vegan, but do it this way, then you still need a doctor. So it's very, very, it's sad, because we have to be so skeptical about the world. But after a while, you can't be living in La La Land thinking it's okay, everything is fine, and the government has my best interest. Sadly, they proved that many, many times that they don't, and we have to just really be smart,
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I see the countryside in your country and my country is burning up with these wildfires, I see the hand of the meat industry, the meat production, because we've been cutting down the forests, which decreases the rainfall, which drives the drought. Why are we cutting down the forest? To make cropland and grazing land for beef cattle. And it's our beef habit that's driving so much of the adverse climate change we're dealing with now. And again, a plant-based diet will save our future as well as our arteries.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned talking about this having starches and making sure we have enough fiber. What is the optimal amount of fiber that a person should have? Because I think we also are obsessed about protein, and we forget that actually we are totally under fibered. So what's the right amount for a person in general to have per day?
Oh, well, interesting question. I can throw out a number that we're talking about 25 grams of fiber, and that's, a handful of pennies worth there. But the beauty of, again, it's become almost one word, whole food, plant-based. But really, if you eat a whole food diet based on whole plant foods in their natural form, you can't, the soups and the salads and steamed veggies and the beans and the grains, a full day of eating that gives you 2,000 calories is going to give you 20 grams, 30 grams of high grade fiber. So just eat your calories in the form of whole plant foods, and the fiber will take care of itself. But once you get into flour products and desserts and processed foods, there goes the fiber there. So as long as it's in its whole food form, the fiber pretty much takes care of itself.
Yeah, and you mentioned flour. So a lot of, obviously, we love our bread in general. Although since I stopped eating it, I feel so much better. There are ways to make, in a way, raw or healthier bread by just soaking buckwheat groats, and then you can just mix it together, and it's got a way to just become very gelatinous, and it really creates a great bread that you can actually put zucchini into, and so on. So there are ways to do this in a way that is still whole foods. But a lot of people think, well, it's whole wheat flour. Is it okay to eat? What is your opinion on that?
Well, the term whole wheat flour has been co-opted. The truth is, at least in America here, it's pretty much standard white flour. It just hasn't been bleached yet, and there might be a little bit of extra fiber in it, but it's generally highly processed flour that will raise your blood sugar and raise your insulin levels, etc. Like you, I've pretty much stopped eating bread. It makes me feel I have a bowling ball in my stomach when I eat it. When we want a sandwich, we usually take out now a leaf of romaine lettuce or collards and put a big glop of hummus on it and some carrot sticks, some cucumber slices, avocado slices, and wrap it up and do a lettuce wrap, and we get the sandwich experience without the actual bread there. And like you, when we do want actual bread, it's this dark whole grain bread. You can see the grain, the whole grain's in the face of the slice of bread there. But even then, a couple slices a week is about all we would have there. So if you're going to be eating any kind of flour products, go for the really whole grain, not whole wheat, but go for whole grain breads where you can actually see the grain there. And in general, see if you can reduce the amount of flour products in general.
Yeah, I agree with that. You actually, so talking about the ketones in our body, I know you've been working with the fasting, and I'm not talking about 3 or 5 days, but I'm actually talking about a 40-day fast, so a longer term fast, which obviously you said sometimes, we can dip our toes into the ketone pool, but then we have to be careful. So what is the difference? And also how people, because a lot of people are getting into fasting now, whether it's intermittent fasting every day for 16 hours, or it's actually 3-day fast or 5-day fast, which they can generally do at home. But people don't want to do it longer. What are the differences, and also what are the things that people should think about, know, and also be careful with? And when is it time to actually do it with a medical professional assisting?
Wow, you asked such excellent questions, and you touched on some important points there. If you're basically a healthy person, you're not taking medications, you don't have any serious medical problems, you're not a type 1 diabetic, whatever, it's absolutely reasonable to give your body a break from eating food. When we sleep, the systems get to rest, our nervous system, our muscles, but not our digestive system. We eat a big dinner, and all night while we're sleeping, our digestive system's working for us. We never let it rest. Well, a fast is a lovely way to let all your systems rest. And a 2-day, 3-day fast, a weekend fast. I've got patients who every other weekend just drink vegetable broth or water. And it's a lovely thing to do, assuming they're not on medications. And so those type of periodic fasts, up to 5 days at home. And I don't want to go over 5 days, but a 3-day fast, 4-day fast is reasonable for healthy people. that window of eating to get it down. Dr. Volter Longo now tells us that a 12-hour window. Stop eating at at 7 in the evening and put off breakfast as long as you can until 8 or 9 in the morning. I guess that's a few more than 12 hours, but no reason to go that full 16 or 18 hours. But it's just in general, eat just maybe twice a day instead of 3 times a day. Though that's a generally healthy way to get the advantages of fasting. Now, but you're asking about these long fasts. Yes, for 8.5 years, I worked at True North Health Center in California, and we supervise long fasts, 2, 3, 4 week fasts or longer. These are medical fasts to reverse serious medical diseases. These are people with runaway high blood pressure that just is not responding to medication, type 2 diabetes that is just resistant to treatment, people with inflammatory diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. A long fast has a very powerful anti-inflammatory effect. I've seen such dramatic improvements in these serious inflammatory diseases. But here you go more than 5 days, you better have somebody around who knows what they're looking at there. You need blood tests once a week to make sure the kidneys aren't getting in trouble. You need someone checking on you every day, check blood pressure, check your heart rhythm, make sure you're not getting ready to vomit. There's an art to supervising a long medical fast. And if you've got a condition that you think will respond to medical fasting, then find a fasting center or doctor who is able to supervise you. I'm able to supervise longish fasts, a couple-week fasts, long distance now, electronically. But again, we've got blood tests before, we get blood tests once a week. I want to see these folks on the screen every morning. How are you doing? Any nausea, any headache? It has to be medically supervised. So fasting can have a very powerful effect, but it's got to be done with respect and be done properly if you're going over 4 or 5 days at home.
And if somebody starts a fast because they need to, it's medically necessary, and they're also deficient in some nutrients, can you do a fast and take some supplements in any form, or you don't think it's necessary?
It's really not necessary. The body, we have stored vitamins and minerals in our tissues there that we're able to draw on during the fast. It's important we have patients who are on medications. You've got to stop all medications. They get potentiated on a fast. They're more powerful. So if you're on high blood pressure medications, you don't want to be taking them during a fast. That blood pressure is going to drop dangerously low. Same thing if you got high blood, you're taking medicine for high blood sugars, and you don't want to be taking those on a fast. You'll wind up hypoglycemic. So medicines get potentiated, and there's a good likelihood that some of these vitamins and minerals would too. So for just a few days or a week or two, you're not going to wind up vitamin deficient. It's best to stop everything during a fast. If you're on medicines, you can't stop. If you're on thyroid medications, then we cut the dose in half during the fast and restore to full dosage after the fast. If you're on say medicines for psychological issues, if you're on antidepressants or whatever, and you can't stop those, you should not do a water fast. You should do a juice cleanse so you don't go into ketosis, so you don't get these medicines potentiated. And again, it helps to talk to a doctor who's experienced in fasting supervision to help guide you if you're on medications or you have these complex issues. If people would like to contact me or doctors who are knowledgeable about this, we do telemedicine at plantbasedtelehealth.com. I'll sure you put down the
We'll put in the
show notes, sir. But we do consultations for people around the world. I've got lots of patients in Europe and Asia and Australia. So you can arrange a consultation with me or any of my colleagues at plantbasedtelehealth.com, and we can give you guidance on how to do a fast.
That is so accessible because a lot of the times locally you might not find a doctor that even knows about this most of the time, really. So it's very good. And My next question was about, actually, you mentioned thyroid, and for people with Hashimoto's, that is an autoimmune disease. Have you seen any massive improvement or even reversal by doing things like a longer fast?
I wish I could say yes. The Hashimoto's is one of those conditions that I have to fight the urge to run the other way when I see Hashimoto's on the sheet there. The problem with Hashimoto's, this is an autoimmune attack on the thyroid gland tissue, and the gland can get damaged. And once it's damaged, the tissue doesn't usually regenerate itself. Possibly it might, with repeated fast, it might wake up the stem cells, but by and large, you get this attack of Hashimoto's. It eventually subsides over months, and then it just depends how much functioning thyroid tissue you have left. And if you have enough to carry yourself, then you don't need to take an external thyroid replacement. But if so much of the gland to function has been damaged, then you've got to take some thyroid supplementation. I haven't seen personally any reversal there. In the theory, repeated short fast, we're finding out when the body goes into the fasting state and there's ketones in the blood, the stem cells that regenerate our tissue and our bone marrow and hair follicles all over the body, when they sense there's ketones in the blood, they kind of hunker down because there's oxidative stress coming in. So they build up with antioxidants and they slow down their metabolism. They get into this state of conservation. Then when the person starts to eat again, the stem cells wake up again. And we're getting hints that the people with damaged pancreases, the type 1 diabetics, the stem cells in the pancreas might start churning out insulin again. If that's the case, how about the stem cells in the thyroid? Might they respond? Maybe. This is just theoretical, but it might be that someone with Hashimoto's might benefit from repeated short fasts. But I have no studies indicating that. But that might be the only ray of light for that condition.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about the stem cells, I was wondering if a combination of fasting with actually stem cell therapy, and I know in the US it's not accessible unless it's like a case study or a trial, sadly. But there are a lot of locations where you can go for medical vacations where you can do stem cell therapy, like in South America, it's huge, in Panama, Brazil, Argentina. So I wonder if there is that connection between maybe doing a fast and then helping with stem cell therapy. But I think you actually also made me think about this. It's great while we're fasting, but what happens when we start eating again? Because if you made yourself sick, like I said, we can. What is the way forward? Because you can do a fast, but then what next?
Well, another brilliant question. That's absolutely true. And as we used to tell our patients at True North, the fast is all wonderful. You get these great improvements in various organ systems. But by far the most important thing is what you eat after the fast. Because if you go back to your old diet, if you go back to burgers and buffalo wings, whatever you were fasting for is going to come right back. And during the fast, we give these folks cooking lessons and nutrition lessons because the fast just has to be a stepping stone into a whole food, plant-based diet. That's really where the healing happens. The fast is just a fire extinguisher that puts out the inflammation temporarily. But the issue is, well, when you start eating again, what are you going to be flowing through your tissues meal after meal? And as long as it's whole plant foods, the odds are that your body's going to stay healthy. But if you start eating the same old foods that cause the problem, that same old problem's going to come right back. So you're absolutely right. And there's an art to breaking the fast. We usually do it if it's been more than a week or so. We usually start them with vegetable broth and steamed squash chunks, and move on to a vegetable soup and steamed vegetables, and then we add in melon chunks and fruits, etc., over the course of 4 or 5 days. So again, I have a video on my website on fasting. People are welcome to see that. Then there's lots of good information these days. about how to conduct a fast and what to eat afterwards. And that's really where the healing happens. You're absolutely right.
Oh, beautiful. I will put everything in the show notes. That's such great resources. Now a lot of people are getting cancer at the moment. Is one of the most skyrocketing diseases that we have. Lifestyle related, environmental factors that affect us. You know, we are in a very polluted environment most of the time. Whether the spraying, the farming is not done naturally anymore. I mean, we are really surrounded. And then a lot of people don't even understand the impact of the things they use in their homes to clean, on their skin, and it becomes a mixing of different elements. So I know that cancer is a very complex subject because of these things. You really have to dissect every part of your life and think, what am I doing that I can improve? But when it comes to cancer, how can a plant-based diet help in that case? Because we talked a lot about lifestyle-related diseases, and cancer can be, but it's a little more complex because obviously it can happen over time, and we can't always pinpoint what it is that causes it in that moment in time. So what is the approach when we use a plant-based diet for cancer?
Another important question. The plant-based diet plays a great role, as you said, in preventing many cancers because meat and dairy are filled with hormones and leukemia viruses and substances that would promote cancer growth. The beauty of a whole food plant-based diet is that it's moderately low in protein. Why is that important? Because when we eat a high protein diet, if you're eating meat and dairy and eggs, you are flooding your liver with all these amino acids from the meat and the dairy. And you flood the liver with these amino acid building blocks. The liver thinks, building block, let's build something with it. And in response, your own liver will put out a very powerful hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. And this promotes growth all over the body. And if you're a growing girl or growing child, yay, you want lots of IGF-1. But if you're a woman with a breast cancer or you're a guy with an early prostate cancer, the last thing you want is a diet that makes you walk around with high IGF-1 levels because it fans growth all over and it makes those cancers grow faster. It's throwing gasoline on a fire. Mm-hmm. And so right away, you've got a big benefit from a whole food plant-based diet because it results in lower IGF-1 levels. I think that it's without all the fat and oil and sugars and growth promoters in the body, the body's in a state, it heals better, wounds heal better. And we touched on the benefits of fasting. Well, we find out that one of the benefits of fasting is, as we mentioned, that fasting can potentiate medications. Well, that works with chemotherapy medications. When you're in a low-grade stem fast, if you do a 3 or 4 day fast, your own stem cells, they hunker down and they get in this state of protection. Cancer cells can't do that. They're just dumb old cancer. All they know is to divide. And then if the doctor deems that some Taxol or some chemotherapy agent is necessary, you'll get a much better response with either having been on a whole food plant-based diet or even better, done a 2 or 3 day fast before the chemo. And I tell my patients, if you've got a chemotherapy or radiation therapy coming up, don't tell the oncologist. They don't know what to do with it. But go in on day 2 of a water fast or day 3 of a water fast, and you're going to get much better effect. Plus, you'll have less nausea, less side effects from the medicine. So, and then when you start eating, make sure it's a very modest whole food plant-based diet afterwards there. So it goes very well as far as both preventing cancers and even in the treatment of cancers and not fanning the cancer fire by promoting lower levels of IGF-1. So all the way around, the folks who eat whole food plant-based diet are going to have fewer cancers and hopefully do better if they need treatment for them.
And if people decide not to have chemotherapy and do things naturally, what is how can this affect, those cancer cells versus the healthy cells? For example, we know that cancer cells have a bigger amount of insulin receptors on them, which is why they love sugar, and they grow with, when we eat things that are not meant to be eaten, which is why it baffles me that oncologists say just eat whatever you want, you not to lose weight. Okay, and so, but with that assumption that obviously can the body heal and kill those cancer cells by not feeding them? So can we starve those cancer cells by being on a whole food diet with maybe fasting even?
Yes, we at True North, we've had several patients come in with lymphomas, cancers of the lymph cells, and I had a patient. She had lymph nodes the size of hen's eggs under her armpits and her groin. She did almost a 4-week fast, and the cancer cell just melted away, and she came in for her follow-up check 3 years later. She's still cancer-free. And this was just the body marshaling its own forces against the cancer cells. Now, lymphomas are different than carcinomas and sarcomas. Not all cancers, will just melt away magically. But the fact that this happens says the body has a huge huge reservoir of healing energy that if you just get out of its way and just let it work for a prolonged period of time, remarkable things can happen. Fractures heal, burns heal, well, cancers can as well. So again, a whole food plant-based diet with or without fasting is your best strategy if you're dealing with any kind of cancer. You can't make any wild guarantee promises, but it certainly makes common sense to not feed the cancer, as you mentioned, and keep your diet lean and clean during cancer therapies.
Absolutely. A lot of people are they kind of okay cutting meat out. They say, yeah, I don't want to be cruel to the animals. I mean, there is cruelty in dairy products, but they're still emotionally attached to having dairy. And more than that, it's actually really addictive. So dairy and eggs. And they think it's healthier than not having, skin or flesh. What is your opinion on that, and how can we change their minds so they actually understand that they're equally bad for us?
Really, we've got this attachment to this secretion that comes out of the udder of a cow, but there's nothing in it that we need. We can get protein from grains and beans. We get calcium from the same place cows do. I mean, cows don't drink milk. Where they get all that calcium? From the green plants they eat, and that's why we should be eating lots of greens. So there's nothing in dairy products that we need. There's a whole lot that we don't need, all the saturated fat and cholesterol and the hormones. The cows are all pregnant these days with modern dairy practice. So they're full of estrogens that give women breast lumps and men prostate cancer. They're certainly nutritionally unnecessary and unhealthy. And I ask my patients, it's baby calf growth fluid. I tell them, go in the bathroom, look in the mirror. Do you have a big snout with whiskers and big ears? Are you a baby calf? If you are, cool, enjoy your milk. But if you're not, then you have no more need for the milk of a cow than you need the milk of a giraffe. Would you pour rat milk on your cereal? Would you pour dog milk on your cereal? Would you drink moose milk? Well, why do we think that this cow milk is somehow helpful for us? It's not. And as you say, it's a cruel industry. Well, you don't have to kill the cow. Yes, you do. The dairy barn is a short stopping off place on the way to the slaughterhouse for a couple of years of calves and milk off these poor animals, and they're all shot in the head and turned into hamburger. It's a slaughter industry, and it involves taking those baby calves away from the mothers day after day to take the milk from them. The male calves are all slaughtered for veal. It's a bloody industry, and this image that they give of the happy cows and the nice pure white milk, it's another lie that we need to disassociate ourselves from. And nowadays, if you look in the refrigerator case, at least in America, there's so many quote dairy products that are made from plants these days. The yogurts and the creams and the cheeses, they're novelty foods. You don't need a lot of them, but just a splash of milk on your cereal, make it oat milk or hemp milk or one of those other plant milks. It's time to let the dairy industry go the same way as the fishing industry and all those other slaughter industries that we used to support. We can do better than that.
Yeah.
On every level.
And for people that counter argue that dairy, when I say, well, dairy is bad for you for these reasons and that you just mentioned, and they're like, yeah, but what about soy? Soy is bad for you. Is
What
it
about
bad for
soy?
you?
Lovely. Um, the soy issue is I remember back in the 90s as the meat consumption began going down, the meat, because people were going to soy products, the meat industry unleashed this tsunami of misinformation. Oh, soybeans, they've got phytoestrogens. Oh, it'll turn your son homosexual. It's like putting your baby on birth control pills if you give them soy formula. And of course, none of this is true. And a couple of important things. One, it turns out that the phytoestrogens in soy are actually protective against breast tissue, against breast cancers. Women who consume lots of soy have a lower incidence of breast cancer. And the opposite is true. Women who consume real dairy products have a higher incidence of breast cancer. As I mentioned, the cows are all pregnant, and the dairy products are filled with not these puny little phytoestrogens, but estrone, estradiol, estriol, pregnadiol, progesterone. The dairy products are filled with real mammalian estrogens. They are active. Our little girls going through puberty at age 8 and 9 and 10. Could it have something to do with this river of milk and cheese and ice cream and yogurt that were full of estrogens that we're telling them to pour down their throat there? And you follow these women, these young girls into adulthood, they get a nasty incidence of breast cancer because they've been stimulating their breasts with estrogens from all these dairy products all these years. For them to say, oh, phytoestrogens are evil. Well, as they said, first of all, they're protective, actually. And compared to what's in dairy products, there's no comparison. The soy is a healthy food. The countries that eat the most soy, Japan and China, have the lowest incidence of breast cancer. This whole idea that the phytoestrogens will give you cancer is just more propaganda from the meat industry, but we should not be deterred from that. No one's saying eat 2 pounds of tofu every day, but a few times a week to crumple up some tempeh into your spaghetti sauce or to do a tofu scramble on a Sunday morning. It's a lovely thing to do. Don't be afraid of soy products.
Yeah, I think it's also because people have associated this use of soy in a lot of processed foods because obviously it's become a commodity. And so, but that's mostly GMO anyway, which you don't want to eat really. You want to get organic and locally grown. I mean, I'm growing my own edamame. They're not difficult to grow. I
No,
know.
it's wonderful. Good for you. Good for you.
And
Go ahead.
it's this concept that they think, oh, it's because it's bad for you. I heard it and also it's GMO. Not all of, oh, it's
No,
it's
it's
GMO.
not.
Just like not all corn is GMO, right? Like,
Right. Thanks for mentioning the GMO, the genetically modified soy and corn. This is cattle feed. The humans aren't eating this stuff. This is genetically modified soy that they're shoveling down the gullets of these millions of pigs and cows and chickens. That's the GMO. All the more reason, because you don't want to eat the flesh of animals who've been fed on this GMO feed. But if you're buying, as you say, organic tofu in the tofu from organic soybeans in the health food store, you're not getting GMO soy. The same thing with your tortillas. If it's organic corn, it's not GMO'd. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Oh, it's all GMO. No, it's
yeah.
not. That's for cattle feed, and all the more reason not to eat that or the cattle.
Yeah. What's your opinion on organic versus traditionally grown food? What do you think we should do?
Yes, I'm a big fan of organic, and for a number of reasons. Of course, there's going to be less pesticides, etc. There's some studies indicating if the soil is healthier, as a good organic farmer should be focusing on getting that soil healthy, well, there's going to be more vitamins and minerals taken up by the plants. I think the nutritional quality of the plants is certainly going to be better. But I have, it's an honor for me to pay the extra dollar to support those organic farmers who are going out of their way to take care of the soil and raise these relatively clean fruits and vegetables. The Now, some of them, depending on how it's defined, one of the organic ingredients can be blood meal that they mix into the soil from the slaughterhouse, and then that supports that industry. So the folks I really like to support are those who are growing their vegetables veganically rather than organically. The veganic ones only are using plant material plowed back into the soil, and if you're not buying steaks and chickens, etc., you got some money left over. I'm happy to pay the extra dollar for the organic broccoli. And I feel good about supporting the farmers who are making that effort to raise it. So I'm a big fan of organic produce.
Oh, you made a very good point, because one other thing that people say is it's expensive to eat or to eat vegan or plant-based, and it's totally not. Now, it's of course it can become if you're starting to use all the vegan products that are mimicking your meat products, because yeah, of course they're gonna take a lot more, money to make, but it's definitely not. It's actually cheaper because your grains and your pulses are so cheap,
That's the
right?
point. Absolutely. The staple foods where you get your calories and your protein. Potatoes are cheap, rice is cheap, quinoa is cheap, beans are cheap. Absolutely. The staples are cheap. And, in America, for $10, you get a 20-pound bag of lentils. You can eat a month off of that. And as I said, you've got a few extra dollars. That's what you spend for produce, for the fresh fruits and vegetables. But the staples are cheap. That whole idea that it's expensive to eat that way just is not true, as long as you're not spending it on a lot of frivolous processed food.
Yeah. Okay, I know we almost out of time, so I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you eat in a day? What it's like for Dr. Clapper? What happens in the morning, lunchtime, and dinner time?
Oh my. Well, I'm an early riser. I usually get up around 5:30 or 6. Every other morning, I have a stationary bicycle in my living room there, and I start pedaling, and I grab while I'm pedaling well, it would be 6 kilo, 7 kilo hand weights. And while I'm pedaling, I do an upper body workout. So I do that for 40 minutes, work up a good sweat, but it keeps me in shape. Because my wife is a yoga teacher, every other morning I do some salutations to the sun to keep my spine limber. So that gets my morning off to a good start. Breakfast. If I'm not hungry, I just drink water till I get hungry, and that may not happen till 11 or so, and that's fine. I'll just call it an intermittent fasting day. But if I'm really hungry, I'll have some oatmeal, some porridge there with all sorts of fruits and nuts on it, and some oat milk or hemp milk. So that's breakfast. And lunchtime, we always have a big salad in the refrigerator, and we'll put some in a bowl, and we open up a can of beans and put it on the salad there, and a no oil dressing. It's a great lunch. That gets me all the way through to dinner. And dinner time, we'll have steamed veggies or soups. And we eat a lot of soup, salads, and steamed vegetables. And she makes wonderful quinoa Buddha bowls. And so eating is a great joy, guilt-free. And I love to get out in nature as much as possible. I'm an avid bird watcher, and we really have lovely creatures around here that I really love. And I enjoy travel. I'm going to be a lecturer on a vegan cruise to Iceland in the next week, and
Wow.
so I'm looking forward to coming over to your continent there. And so life is wonderful, and I teach the medical students several times a week, and I'm healthy, happy, got love in my life, and last week I had a birthday. I just turned 75.
Happy
And
birthday.
thank you. And I'm stunned. I was a young man, 2 weeks ago. I don't know where this white-haired, white-bearded guy in the mirror came from, but I feel great. I feel healthy. I'm not on any medicines. I don't have any aches or pains, and I attribute that to a whole food plant-based diet and lots of love and laughter in my life.
Yeah, you have a very young energy, and this is really mirroring of this kind lifestyle. And you mentioned your wife being a yoga teacher. I am too. And this ahimsa, right, this kindness, the not doing any harm, and that includes all living beings, including ourselves. And one of the things that always shocked me is how many yoga teachers eat meat. And I'm like, what did we miss here? But thankfully, no, I didn't meet too many, but enough to make me question. But that is so important. So I love that you have that. And then I have one more question that's really important. Can you eat too many bananas?
I'm sorry, do I what?
Can you eat too many bananas?
Too many bananas. I don't know, probably not. I haven't had any chimpanzees come in my office saying I think I overdosed on bananas. And I don't think so. I think all the fiber you're eating would slow down the absorption. And I know there's a website, 30 bananas a day or something, and people do it. But it can be done. But you wonder about what you're doing to your microbiome, what kind of organisms you're going to spawn there. Will that in the long term be healthy? I don't know. But try it for a few days and see how you feel.
I'm addicted. I'm like, I don't eat 30, but I definitely can go for 5 or 6. And my husband keeps on telling me it's too many. I'm like,
how
it's
many
not too
can
many.
you eat? Good heavens. Really.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dr. Klaper. It's such a pleasure to have you here. It was a wonderful discussion. And so easy. I mean, the hour flew by.
So thank you for helping to get this word out. You are a bright light of knowledge and wonderful, loving energy there. And it's an honor to help get this word out with you. So thank you very much, and best to you and your listeners.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Klaper, and thank you everyone for staying on for this episode, which I really feel is one of the best ones I had on the podcast. It's full of golden nuggets. And Dr. Klaper is wonderful at sharing information and teaching the information to us. Even if we're not aware of what's going on, we can learn so easily from him because he's got such a beautiful way of explaining things. So I really hope that if you don't know Dr. Klaper, you will get to know him now. If you go into the show notes, I've linked everything there is to know about him, all his projects, all his work, so you can really dive into it. Please do educate yourself, because that's your power to stay healthy, and we can thrive in this lifetime in our beautiful bodies. So guys, I will see you next week. Please do share, like, comment, and help us grow. Bye.